hopefully everyone, I think we're running out of sign-in sheets. If everyone did get a sign-in sheet when they came in, we're definitely interested in collecting your contact information so we can keep you informed and abreast of all the things that are happening here to help make our community better, especially the kinds of improvements we're going to talk about tonight. Additionally, there was a survey. We did run out of those a little while earlier. The survey is going to be used just to collect your direct input, your feedback as a byproduct of your attending this meeting and see what you think. And we're going to use that directly to help shape things going forward. So we appreciate it. If you're a couple, if you're sharing a survey, that would be awesome, and just pass one to your right. But we'll be collecting those on the way out. So we're going to go ahead and get started here, and we have a very good topics for you tonight. But the very first thing we're going to do is just let you know who the Steiner Ranch Neighborhood Association is, why we're here, what we're doing.
Anybody else sneaking?
And Steiner Ranch Neighborhood Association is here because we are in a very fast-growing city, and our community as a whole is growing very fast as well. And so there's a lot of folks vying for very limited resources and attention. And as everyone who lives out in the Four Points area knows, our community has a robust set of challenges due to all the rapid growth. As you know, we're dealing with traffic congestion on a daily basis. Lots of great new development, but it's putting pressure on our schools, it's putting pressure on our roads and on our safety. And so with all that going on, it's very important for us as a community to work together to engage the folks who make leadership decisions in our community. We have a couple of those folks and representatives of those folks here tonight. We've got Representative Paul Workman. Sorry, hey Paul. From Commissioner Bruce Todd's office, we've got Sarah Krause representing Bruce Todd. And any other dignitaries, I apologize. I've also got Pam Wagner from Leander Independent School District. And we've got a bunch of great executives here and leaders from the Travis County Transportation, from Texas Department of Transportation. Also, there's staff here from City of Austin Transportation and from Travis County Roads as well. We're going to hear from each of those folks tonight, as well as the Sheriff's Department for Travis County and Emergency Services District 6, Lake Travis Fire and Rescue. All those folks have taken their time to come out here this evening and give you an update. With all of that packed in, what we're going to try to do is keep the question periods kind of consolidated so we can move through and get through all the material that we have. We really do appreciate your support. With all the challenges we have, we need to work together. Steiner Ranch is trying to do that to make sure our community's needs are understood. We've been a voice for this community, but we also need your support. If you can take on that registration form, if you can donate to us this evening, or you can go online and do so, we really appreciate it. What we would like to do, and we had kind of we have a great interest from the community, we'll say it that way, but we don't have a high level of active donation from the community. If we can bring that up, get a broader collection of folks supporting what we're doing, working on behalf of the community, we can get our dues lowered down, we can have a broader base of support, and we can be in a sustainable mode, and that's what we'd like to do. So we really appreciate your support this evening. Before we move on, I'd like to introduce our current set of board of directors. Myself, I'm Brian Tompto. I'm the chairman. I've been involved with SRNA since its formation. And the rest of our current set of the board have all actually been involved. They were all part of our initial crew. They're all part of the folks that just 2 years ago now, 2012, that helped to get this organization going and really tackle all these great issues. But if you could stand when I call your name, please. H. Lobdell, Vice Chairman. David Sandell, our Secretary. Daniel Hodges, Treasurer. Brian Clifton. Rick Rivera. And Erhard Suderman. And I'll mention, as y'all listening to this material tonight, for those of you that are passionate about this community and want to help us make a difference, you can join our team. We'd love to have you. You can sign up. Please try to sign up by this Friday. Right on our website, it's easy to find, steinerranchna.org. It's on all the flyers that you can pick up on the way out here this evening, /board, and you can sign up to be a board director here with us. Okay, so topics this evening, I think of much interest to the community. First and foremost, we're going to talk about traffic congestion. One of the headline issues there really is TXDOT coming out and unveiling to everyone a new plan for traffic congestion in 6/20/2022. Then we're going to move on to development. We're going to talk briefly, overview of development here and what's going on with the remaining parcels, in particular MU14, which is a set of duplexes planned for up front. We're going to talk about safety. Leander ISD is going to present an update on what's going on with access to Vandegrift High School and 4 Points Middle School from a safety perspective. Also, from an evacuation perspective, Travis County Executive for TNR, Steve Manila is here, and he's going to talk a little bit about evacuation and egress options. And from Lake Travis Fire and Rescue is going to actually talk about how an evacuation would take place if one, God forbid, ever had to happen again here in our great community. And then finally, on the crime prevention front, the Sheriff Department will give a quick update. There has been some concern and request to address this issue here at this community meeting today because of some recent crime in the area. So we want to definitely get you latest information on that. And finally, we'll wrap up with an update on our board financials and other issues associated with the association. We do have some additional seating for those who are coming in. We have some seating right up here in front. Feel free to make your way around. And I'll tell you that on the way out here, if you look for dropping off those forms is important. You can drop those off. We'll have a box here near the exit. You can drop those off. Please make sure to leave them with someone on the way out. We don't want to miss your information and your feedback as well. Okay? So, traffic congestion, let's talk about it real quick, real high level to set the stage for TXDOT. Basic strategy here is we got short-term fixes that some of those have already been implemented. You're looking at a major fix needed for 620 and 2222. That's the top priority for everyone out here. And long-term planning. Where is 620 on the long-term roadmap plan? It's really not there at this point. So from a short-term perspective, we have been able to work. We reached out to the City of Austin. They did some signal timing improvements that many of you may have seen the benefit. Now, it may not feel like it today because you're used to the traffic that you still have to wait in long lines to get through signaling both in the morning and evening rush hours, a lot of times during the work day. But if you remember back a year and a half ago, traffic was backed up in the mornings over Mansfield Dam every morning. It got really bad, it got extreme. And so by doing some signal timing, you can help alleviate the traffic a little bit. But as you can imagine, there's limits to what that can really do. But we have been engaged as a neighborhood association with the City of Austin, and they continue to be responsive. So when you see something that seems to get broken, something gets a lot worse, the thing to do is just to communicate about it. A lot of times it'll be a broken sensor, or something got misadjusted, and if no one speaks up about it, a problem can sit there for weeks and everyone's suffering. So when you see something, feel free to reach out to us, let us know about it. We can be a collector for the community. We will reach out and engage with the city, or feel free to reach out to them directly. As you well know, also, you've seen and experienced and benefited from TXDOT, and funded also from the City of Austin, but implemented by TXDOT, where dual right turn lanes were added on RM 620, really helping morning traffic going on 620 towards 2222. Now, as many of y'all were aware, the original scope and plan of those didn't get built out to the original specifications, and there was a lot of frustration in the community when that happened. It's very understandable. But I think the good news is TXDOT, I can tell you from my experience with them, has taken very seriously the issue of trying to do something for our community, to put a plan on the table that will make a much bigger difference than extending the dual right turn lanes by a few dozen feet would have made. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm excited about that. And finally, dual left turn lanes at McNeil. TXDOT may address that this evening. Those have been kind of on the board for a couple years. It sounds like progress is being made there off of 2222 to get folks into the high school, get the high school students in and out easier. And as you know, all that isn't enough. We've got major issues here. Growth is happening. It's going to continue to happen. And the basic strategy we had set forth a couple years ago was, let's get some specific options on the table. And that's what led us to TXDOT. They're the regional planners here. They're actually in charge of the roadway planning out here in 620, 2222. And they're leading a multi-jurisdictional area, right? So you've got the City of Austin, Travis County, and TXDOT, all that have to be involved in major transportation decisions. And TXDOT's got the lead. So we engaged with TXDOT a couple years ago. We've been advocating for specific solutions. TXDOT has responded, and we're very happy that we're at that step right now. And the next step is going to be to rally political support once y'all see the solution and get your feedback to it. So what we're going to look to do tonight, TXDOT's going to present the concept. In order for this to move forward, it's got to have public support. If y'all are familiar with what happened on Loop 360, a plan was introduced, the community didn't embrace it, and nothing's been done in 360 as a consequence. So if you've got feedback, constructive feedback, that's good. What we're hoping tonight is that you can take time to listen to what TXDOT's got and let it warm in a little bit, and hopefully you'll like what they've got. I did when I saw it. I've been impressed. And then if we do like it, let's go get it done. Let's push on who we need to push on to get it done. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. Funding is going to be the key there. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Greg Melodic and from TXDOT, and he's going to walk you into this proposal.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the opportunity to come speak to everybody. As Brian mentioned, we've got some ideas to kind of run past everybody. I think the main part of it is that we're in the early stages. It's very conceptual. So as Brian mentioned, looking for input from others, but it's just something we wanted to run past y'all. I think Brian mentioned it, but a lot of this comes from the neighborhood association and discussions with us. These were from frustration that they had with the traffic out here, looking for possible solutions. So again, a lot of the neighborhood association work hard. Also, just so you know, behind the scenes, had many discussions and many meetings with Representative Workman, also Travis County Commissioner Todd, and Travis County Commissioner Gerald Doherty. So they were very instrumental in everything that we've done. Also, they've been along the way giving us input and direction. So again, they get a whole lot of credit on what we're about to show tonight. I am. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Greg Melodic. I am the Austin District Engineer for the Texas Department of Transportation. I have 11 counties that I'm responsible for, and this area falls under one of my counties. Also tonight I have with me our Georgetown area engineer Mark Jones, and then also our lead designer from our Georgetown area office, Gerald Holmeyer. And being a good delegator, I've asked Mark to kind of walk y'all through the presentation and the model that his office was very instrumental. I guess the other folks we should recognize is our consultant, HDR. They could not make it tonight, but again, they've been it's everything that you see up there is the hard work that they've put in. So with that, I'm going to let Mark kind of walk y'all through the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Melodic. Appreciate everybody coming out. Gerald and I are well aware of what's going on out here in the congestion. We've been in this office for quite a long time. Our office, we oversee all of Williamson County, state and federal roads in Williamson County, and northern Travis County. We've got Candy Lane, 2222, north end of US 183, roads like that. So we are quite familiar with that. Brian is right, we've spent a lot of times talking to Steiner Ranch neighborhood folks, and also 2222 Kona and Four Points Chamber. So we're quite aware of the congestion you guys have out here, and we do what we can when we can as far as improving, making some improvements. Let's go ahead and go to the first slide there. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the scope of this. This is not planning. This is more of a conceptual and developing ideas on what we can do. And the reason why I say that is because full planning is where we've kind of already done that. We know we have some alternatives that we want to move forward with. And we're actually designing schematics, detailed schematics, and going out and having public hearings and doing a formal presentations and getting formal feedback from people, and eventually going through and hopefully getting an environmental approval so we can go to construction. That's not where we're at right now, and I just want to emphasize that. We're very preliminary in idea, looking at ideas and concepts and communicating with our governmental stakeholders out here and our second tier stakeholders, which I call Steiner Ranch, 2222 Kona, 4 Points, people like that. And so because of that, we went ahead and tasked our consultant to let's look at it and see what we can do within our own right of way and if there's any improvements that we might have missed. Okay, Brian kind of touched on that. We did that. We looked at it. There's not much more signal timing modifications we can make out here. I think we're probably at our capacity. I'm not speaking for the city of Austin. They manage these signals, but I think we're pretty close to that. We've also looked at what more lane designation modifications can we make at our intersections to try to get a little bit more traffic through there. I think we've done about all we can at these major intersections and with that respect. So we went ahead and expanded their scope, our consultant scope, to say, okay, well, let's reach out here and let's take right away off the, let's look at it in terms of not staying within the right of way. If we need to go out and purchase a little bit of right of way, let's take that under consideration. But our scope was to do something feasible too. We don't want to reach out there and come up with some ideas and concepts for huge interchanges and freeways, okay? Because that's really not economically feasible right now in today's economy. And then we want to be mindful for the environment too. This is an extremely critical area for environment, and not just the bugs and birds, but also the people. There's a lot of folks out here that want to preserve that hill country corridor aspect, and we're well aware of that. And so that's how we kind of came about the scope and what we moved forward with. So with that, this first slide here basically shows, that's all right, we'll stay right here, basically shows where we're at right now. This is existing conditions. We got queuing up on 2222 at McNeil. We've got roughly 48,600 cars daily on 620, 38,400 up to 43,500 cars per day on 2222. You guys know this, you drive it every day. You're well aware of the congestion and gridlock out here in the morning and afternoon. So that kind of sets the stage of where we're at today. Go ahead, next slide. So what we did, we came up with one alternative. And if you think about this, and a lot of you probably already came up with this, probably didn't need to hire an engineering company. A lot of y'all probably already thought of this. One of the bottlenecks is right here, the 2222-620 signal. All right? Well, we've got a whole lot of traffic in morning and afternoon coming from Lakeway and Lakeway and Cedar Park, and then they're competing for that signal with your Lakeway and Steiner Ranch people. So we thought, well, if we split that traffic up and separate them, that's going to improve that intersection. So that's what we did. Our proposal in this alternative one was to run a what we call a connector roadway from 620, and these are those apartments. So this is an undeveloped site right now, and it runs along that apartment and then ties in 620 right here. So we've accomplished that, separating that traffic right here at this intersection. The other idea was the other bottleneck is River Place. Okay, a lot of that morning traffic from Cedar Park, they're doing a cut through. They're coming right over from 4 Points down to River Place, and they're creating another bottleneck right here. We've looked at different options there. We've even thought about grade separating that, but that, like I said, we get into more funding issues doing that and more environmental concerns. So what we're doing is we're saying, well, if we can just add one lane in each direction through that signal, we're still going to have a little bit of congestion in the outer years, but we're going to be able to reduce that queuing of traffic and get more traffic through that signalized intersection. kind of like what we're doing in Cedar Park on 1431. We want added capacity, getting more traffic through those signals. So the concept is that added capacity, one lane in each direction, from just past River Place all the way to McNeil before we hit Tumbleweed Hill. Brian talked about a project that we have on the books right now. It's actually under design, and we're still seeking construction dollars. But it's to add dual lefts right here to McNeil, and that's to get into Vandegrift School. We've been working pretty good with the City of Boston on that, and Pam with the Lander ISD. So the idea is that we can kill that lane, that added lane, if you will, at that dual left. And then we don't really need that added capacity going down Tumbleweed Hill. Same with the opposite direction. We come up Tumbleweed Hill and just past Riblin Ranch would pick up that extra lane, okay? We carry it through all the signals, and it would go on up to, just past River Place is where we would end that at. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And we're going to show a model on that, and I'll get into a little more discussion on this option. The next slide is, we're well aware of some development that could potentially happen right here in this triangle. And so we started thinking about ways that alternative ideas, again, if you will, of how we can still get that split in traffic up there at this signal, and maybe offer something that's a little bit more, that might work a little bit better with the development. So what we're proposing here in this alternative is what we call a split one-way pair. And what that is, essentially, it's the same concept, but instead of having both directions of travel here, we're having our eastbound traffic coming from Steiner Ranch and Lakeway, and it would be a free-flowing movement, and then onto that added lane on 2222. Same in the afternoon, it would be all that traffic, let's say Steiner Ranch and Lakeway traffic. They'd come up here, they'd store in a dual left turn lane that's going to be signalized, and then when they're released, they'll come over here and another dual left lane to go south. Now we're showing some signals here. These aren't your typical signals, full phase signals. Okay, these are what we call like half signals, if you will. For example, and we'll see that in the model. For those that you'll be able to see it back there, you may not be able to see it. But so let's say in the afternoon you're going to Cedar Park or Bullock Hollow, you won't be stopped at this signal. You'll just continue going. That signal is only for that left turning traffic trying to get to Steiner Ranch and Lakeway. If it's in the morning and you're coming from Cedar Park or Bullock Hollow, you could be stopped at that signal, allowing that Steiner Ranch and Lakeway traffic to feed back out. Let's say people dropping their kids off and wanting to go back home, they're going to get a signalized red and allow them to go back. So this is a pretty cool concept. It's essentially the same concept as the other one. We haven't modeled this one yet, but we feel like it's going to offer the same benefits. And we're getting ready to task HDR to go ahead and model that and make sure that we're right in our assumptions. So let's go to the next slide. So this gets a little more detailed here, but basically what I want to share with you, this is our baseline right here. Okay, this is AM up here on top and PM, and I apologize, you won't be able to read these numbers. Let me just kind of give you a overview of what they say. So this is, let's just look at AM, okay? We're just going to look at AM right now, but so this is our intersections, our major intersections, 620, 2222, 2222 River Place, and 2222 at McNeil. This first column here is this is if we do nothing, and in year 2020, what is it going to look like, okay? Red is bad, obviously. The first set of numbers is our delay per vehicle. And then we also measure the congestion by what we call level of service, or LOS, okay? And really, just to simplify that, all we do, we're giving a letter grade traffic's moving relatively smooth, no congestion. F being it fails, it's a gridlock, okay? We also, and all these are based off of 2 periods of time, peak AM and peak PM. And so as you can see, by year 2020, if we do nothing, we're at Fs and Es and Ds pretty much on all of our intersections in the morning and nighttime, okay? If we go with this little proposed connector roadway, the first alternative that we showed you that we have modeled, and I believe the second alternative will offer us the same benefits again, we're going to see some improvements. We're not fixing it, okay? The only way we can fix it is to truly put in grade separated interchanges and direct connects and more added capacity on the facility, okay? So, but if we do just what I showed you earlier, we can have a drastic improvement and bring those level of services from F to E or F to D and get a little bit more improvement out there. So let's go to the next slide. This here represents our annual delay, and it's in thousands of vehicles per hour, okay? Right now in today's existing conditions, our consultant has determined that there's about 829,000 hours of annual delay out there right now, okay? If we do nothing by 2020, we're going to have a 77% increase in delay to everybody out here, okay? And this is a pretty cool little concept or graphic here, because you can put a dollar amount on that. You can roughly say, let's say $17 an hour or something like that, and you can really see how much it impacts the road users, y'all, in every day, trying to get to work, trying to go to school. And if we go with just the connector option that we're showing in the added capacity on 2222, we're estimating a 65% decrease in delay by 2020. Now you can put a dollar figure on that, and you can almost say it pays for the construction of that connector road. So that's a pretty cool little graphic. Now let's go ahead and the first model I'm going to show you is this will be 2020 no build in the morning. And like I said, I apologize if everybody can't see this out there, but it's a pretty cool little model. It has little cars driving up and down the road, and it's a pretty cool engineering model, and it's pretty precise. So this is 620 and 2222 in Bullock Hollow. You can see the traffic out here by year 2020 in the morning. Gridlock. That's that F that I showed you earlier on 2020, red. Now we're going towards the lake, towards Steiner Ranch on 620. We're experiencing this already out here in the curve right now, in the morning. Our model doesn't go all the way back, but it extends by 2020 even further back. Got Comanche Trail here, Steiner Ranch. And now we're going to be going down 2222 and showing you what that looks like all the way down to McNeil. This takes in all of our models, takes in roughly 2% growth in development per year. That's a pretty standard rate of development. Now we're approaching River Place, heading east towards Austin.
So what's the difference between that and now? You're saying that's 2020?
A lot of that you see is, yeah, a lot of that you see right there is what you see now. It's going to be worse, obviously. More development, more traffic, more growth. Yes, ma'am.
You're saying 2% now, we're not at 2%, we're way above that, so what is our percentage?
Generally for traffic modeling, they run with a 2% growth per year. Yeah, it can vary year to year.
But we're not, the 4 points area is not at 2%. If we're adding 300 plus apartments here, that jumps us how many, what, 10% now?
Yeah, and I think you could do that. You could show even a more percent, and it's going to crash. It's going to crash. I mean, we're showing that we have issues right now with this model. It's all relative.
So are we looking at any options other than this, just these roadways? I mean, we need freeways, and
Yeah, we can discuss that here in a minute. Let me get through the model here. It is. Yeah, and Pam, yeah, I want to point out a couple more things. Let's go ahead and play the 2020 build option. Okay, if we can pause it right there for a second. Pam, that's a good point. We do have, in the build option, you're going to see what we call an aux link from Steiner Ranch up here to this connector. Okay, this is that connector that we're going to show you in the model. And part of the deal there is what we're proposing in this is from Steiner Ranch all the way up to this connector, which is going to be free-flowing right to go towards Austin, that added capacity, or what we call aux lane on 620. It's an auxiliary lane. It's not really added capacity. So go ahead and let's continue on the model. I want to show a couple other things here.
is that Ox Lane from Steiner Boulevard or Steiner?
It's Steiner Boulevard. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit more relief here along the development. And keep in mind, this is peak AM traffic, not normal traffic. Okay, and if we could pause it right here. Okay, this shows that, okay, if you look here, we've got 3 lanes going northbound. Right now we have 2. So that outside lane is that aux lane that I'm talking about. It dies right here. We'll have to sign it accordingly, you know, Austin, eastbound, next right. And that's going to try to pull in all that traffic out of that 620, 22 signal. When we do that, we're hoping that a lot of the Cedar Park traffic might quit using River Places to cut through and come back up to 620 and the 22 signal like they used to. So it shows that right movement. It's a free-flowing right. And then it also shows that left, that 2 lane that you could use in the peak PM coming back home. And you, like I said, you'll be stopped here and then you'll be released. It'll be a dual left to go back home. You won't be over here competing with the signal like you are right now. So let's go ahead and proceed.
Will you be discussing bike lane?
Not in this presentation. All that will have to be, once we get into planning and development at some point, yeah, obviously all pedestrian aspects and bicycles have to be thought about carefully. Normal congestion with the signals out there in the trail. can see there's and again, this is all relative, but a lot of improvement on that northbound in the morning.
Where did that auxiliary lane start?
Steiner Ranch Pool. We're going to go back up to the connector in just a minute. Let me point out some stuff and then we'll continue. Okay, so here's the connector. It's
I'm sure there's a reason, but why is that connector not going across the bottom of that triangle instead of going up and then back down?
well, if you remember, we did show that other alternative, the split one-way pair, where we did have it running on the bottom of that triangle.
That'd be right there.
Why not just make it?
Okay, Brian, if we could pause it right here. Okay, this is your eastbound morning traffic from Lakeway Steiner Ranch and Austin. It'll be free-flowing. This is where that additional added lane on 2222 begins. It begins because of this traffic right here. So it's not going to be signalized. You guys just keep going and head on down to Tumbleweed Hill. And then also, this shows the dual left right here. It's kind of hard to see, but this is your dual left. You'll be stacking up in the afternoons, and then you'll be released to head this way. Your Cedar Park, Bullock Hollow people, they won't be stopped. It'll be free-flowing all the way up to the 620, 22, 22 signal. Okay.
How far does the connector enter before where the dual lanes take us up to Vandegrift? Will there be enough room for cars, for kids going over to actually get into those left lanes? Or are we just going to create a traffic jam as those lanes are trying to cross each other through there?
I'm sorry.
Is the road takes, if you come off the off road to come right onto 2222, how much room is there before the dual lanes are, oh, it's before River Place Boulevard. So they'll have plenty of time to be shifting lanes. So I don't want to see us just create congestion as people are trying to move 3 lanes to the left to get to the lanes.
Yes. One thing we're looking at, needs to be looked at when we get more into planning, is being able to run the lefts out both directions at the same time. So there has to be a little bit of intersection work to try to, right now you can't do that, they'd be conflicting. So that's another thing we can do to add a little more green time on the signal. Okay, and then also that added capacity through that signal is how we are getting a little bit more benefit on the level of service on this intersection. Thank you.
Have you already entertained expanding the existing right-of-way like we're doing on the path?
Say that again?
Have you already investigated expanding the existing right-of-way like additional lanes like we're doing on the path currently?
This is the only thing we're looking at right now. And we would have to, yes, this is most likely we'd have to purchase some right of way to be able to do this. So here we got all the 3 lanes running each direction, running pretty smooth for morning. We've got 3M right here, and then we're going to kill that. Okay, stop right here. Okay, so this is the project that we're working on design right now. Our goal is if we can get this 100% funded to let it after school ends next year and be able to do this intersection work, which is the dual lefts before school starts back up. That's our goal. And we're, like I said, we're doing construction plans right now.
That
So
means
this-
2015?
Yes, 2015. That's our goal. So this shows the 2 lanes going into the school, and then we only have 2 lanes proceeding towards Austin. So we've killed that extra lane, and now we just go down Tumbleweed Hill like we do today. And then you see the 3 lanes approaching. We picked up that 3rd lane roughly around Riblin Ranch, and then that's where it picks up. So we're getting a little bit more throughput to this intersection, and we're able to, in the morning, get more traffic into the high school than we do right now. We're also proposing a dual left out of there, which is going to help bring a lot of that traffic out of the school area.
I got one question. We got 2 lanes going to a single lane. That's correct?
Let's see if we can rewind it. Yes. Are you talking about on McNeil? Yes. That does show that. We've been working with the city of Austin right now on what we need to do to reconstruct some of McNeil in order to not have any bottlenecks and accept that extra lane. Yeah.
2 rights from the deal,
Excuse me?
2 right turns from the deal, going west.
That going this way?
Leading right.
It's one lane right now. And I believe that's probably the end. Right, I think that concludes the technical presentation of our idea or concept. And I'll try to take a few questions. Like I said, the consultant's not here, so anything I can't answer, we can go through Brian here, and he can send those to us via email. We can certainly get answers to you guys. Yeah.
2 questions, please. Who owns the power line easement from the bin 620 up to the junkyard?
Yeah, LCRA.
LCRA
Yes,
owns
sir.
that easement?
Yes, sir.
And how wide is that easement?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. So also that easement continues north across from the easement,
Yes.
and it kind of goes right by River Place Boulevard where it turns and goes. So is there no way to connect Vandegrift to River Place behind 3M?
I'm going to let Lynn Rice talk about that. I'll throw this out. We've been working with them, and we modeled that connection, and I think they'll talk about that in a little bit. That's not part of what we're doing here. What we're showing here is just the connector road and how to improve those 2 intersections, River Place and 2222, 620. Yes?
I wondered if we have access to real growth numbers, because when you're doing these projections, you're assuming 2% per year, but it does seem that we are growing at a much greater rate than that. So if we could get real growth numbers and project real growth numbers into that to see if that model really does have that kind of effect.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
The exit, the last slide that we're looking at, where you have the exits coming out of McNeil.
Yes,
onto-
the left out.
Yeah, I think probably, I'm guessing, probably about 90 to 95% of the students actually live the other way.
The other direction.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I mean, the 2 left lanes become useless if you ever come.
And that's part of, again, these are just ideas and concepts, okay? Once we get into planning and development, we're gonna really look at growth and all that to see, what we need. Does it make sense to have that to the left out of there or not, Now, we're not allowing that left out over there at Redland Ranch. We're discouraging that. It's a right in, right out, left in. And so a lot of those folks that do turn left out, we're going to try to discourage that over at Redland Ranch. Yes, sir.
That 3 items. One, you showed that auxiliary road that's for essentially Lakeway and Steiner.
Yes.
It stops short of Steiner Boulevard.
Yes, right now in the mall it does stop short, and again, we're not sure right now whether or not it's going to hook up with Steiner Ranch or not.
Okay, so and then the other one was the angle where that connector is coming into 620, it's a 90 degree. And I can see people coming home, going back to Lakeway, back to Steiner, it's going to slow them down at 90 degree. So your flow of traffic's going to be slow.
You may get a little, and
Going through the light, that kind of
Right.
right?
It's going to be a signalized intersection to turn left, so regardless whether they're more at an angle or not, they're going to be stopped, before they get going.
Okay.
And also, one other thing that we're trying to look at visibility too. We want to set up that signal, obviously, where, it can be visible.
Okay, sorry. And then the third item was, notice that after you pass McNeil, going down 2022, it narrows back into 2 lanes.
Yes.
And it seems like you probably want 3 lanes all the way down 20.
Yeah, right now it's not needed, okay, in the future maybe, but our goal is to get through the 2 bottlenecks. That's the main goal of this concept that we're working on. Once you get down Tumbleweed Hill, it's a divided section, and it seems to be moving pretty good right now. Not to mention we get into a whole different can of worms with environmental out there on top of the hill. So.
No mind, I'm stealing my copy. This was just an interesting time. Thank you. Folks, we're going to keep it moving in the interest of time here. We got a lot still to cover. Thanks to you, Mark Jones, for all your efforts here. Mark's been, for the last 2 years, ever since the first time we met, he's been passionate about doing something out here. He wanted to do something meaningful. I think this council is meaningful, and we really appreciate him and Greg Melodic and his leadership and support, as well as the support, as was mentioned, of Representative Paul Workman, who's been very instrumental in making sure that these plans and these options have gotten on the table and gotten out to the public, as well as our county commissioners, Bruce Todd and Gerald Doherty, who have also shown exceptional leadership and really backing up our area. They're looking out for us, I can tell you that. So next steps here, what can we do? Provide feedback. I'm sure there's lots more questions out there, and as Mark said, get those questions to us and we'll get them to TXDOT. We'll get those questions answered. A lot of the details that we're wondering about are probably the type of thing that can be taken care of in a planning phase. I think the high level thing to understand here, what I take out of it is, yes, long run, more is needed, even more beyond this. But if you looked at it, the timeline and the growth that we all know is happening right now, we can't wait for a project that's going to take 15 years to fund that costs hundreds of millions of dollars right now. We need to get something going soon. And from what I understand, and this project, while it's just in a concept phase right now, if we get through public support and we have that public buy-in, and we continue to have buy-in from the county and the city, it becomes a matter of going through the process of environmental planning and then a matter of getting funding. It turns into a funding issue. So folks, if you like what you saw tonight, or if you like this plus a twist or whatever you want to see, if this is of the right order of magnitude that you'd like to bring here to get built, I think if I understood correctly, probably the quickest it could even possibly get done is maybe in the 3 to 5 year timeline. Is that about right, Greg? Or?
The soonest for environmental, take fund. I guess just to, sorry, I'm an engineer, so I can't just say yes. The soonest it would be is let's say there's funding there, and for the process to go where it's at, to come in and do the public involvement, the environmental process, and even develop the plans, you're talking approximately 3 to 4 years. And that's just the normal process of anything that you do, and especially with an environmentally sensitive area that this is, that makes it even more trickier to try to do. So there's that aspect, but then, as Brian said, it's the funding, and we really didn't tell y'all, and so probably the big reveal is right now, and this is real preliminary estimates, just that connector that we're talking about, and we're not talking right-of-way or utility adjustments, but just the construction is approximately $20 million. And $20 million. So that's a lot of money, but that's just one of those things to where, and so kind of I heard somebody say, why can't we just add more lanes and more right-of-way out there on 620 and 2222? And as Brian mentioned, that's even, you can imagine what the money we're talking about for that. So this is something to where it's needed immediately as the numbers that Mark showed. So again, that's one of those things to where we're in the crawling stages. We'll be working with the other local governing entities out here and determine what we can do, the different funding tools that we have out there to try to get this moving. The other thing that if y'all didn't see that, there'll be right-of-way in some businesses. So that 20 million did not include having to buy those businesses. So that's something to where, again, that adds onto the tab too. So I just want everybody to kind of know, but kind of to Brian's question, if everything came through and the money was there, probably the earliest would be 3 to 4 years. That's the earliest if everything comes together.
Hey Brian, can you address how we're competing for these projects against other projects that may be in the city of Austin? And how we make sure we don't lose whatever budget allocation may be needed for this?
And if I could, right now we haven't had any conversation, we haven't laid out any numbers to the city of Austin or Travis County. We haven't had those discussions yet. They know about the plan, but we've been in the process of working out the numbers. And they've been very receptive and they understand what's going on. So I don't want anybody leaving here saying, okay, we're going after the city of Austin or Travis County. That's not the case. Again, it's one of those things where we haven't had that talk with them yet.
And just to add on to that, thank you very much, Greg. Add on to that, I think what this really is it's about getting support from our representatives and making sure that the broader set of decision makers at the city level and at the county level really understand the urgency of improvements out here. And I think getting our public educated so that when you are talking to folks running for office, when you're talking to the candidates, we've actually have at least one of the candidates for City Council, District 6 out here this evening. When you're talking to the folks running for office, when you're talking both for the city, and for the county, if this is the number one issue that you believe needs to be addressed and funded, then we need to say that. And we need to say it really strong. And I think a key dynamic here from a city perspective is the movement to the 10-1 representation. I think it gives us a fighting chance because when you put the tabs all together and if this comes out to $30 to $40 million, it's going to take some funding from a little bit from some from the state, some from the county, some from the city to get this done. And so we need to push on all fronts. And I think that's really where the challenge is here is in this voting season, now is the time to make your voice heard. And that's what we need everyone to do after yeah, I'll take a quick one, real quick.
How do we make our voice heard with the city when none of us can vote in city elections?
Well, good point. So the folks that are inside of Steiner Ranch proper, you can't vote in city elections. There are folks out here in our neighborhood association boundary that can vote. And for those even that can't vote, it doesn't mean you can't engage with the folks that are running. You can engage with them. You will eventually be, part of their district. We're eventually going to get annexed, folks. It's going to happen eventually. And that's not a short-term consideration for them, but you can engage with them. You can express your influence on them as best you can in terms of imparting to them the urgency for the 4 Points area. And we can partner with the other folks in the area, our friends in River Place, our friends in Grandview Hills, our friends in all the other areas that can vote, and make sure that we're working together on this. That's another big part of it. So just real quick to add on, long term, there's still something else that needs to happen here. Because the scope of this solution, it's covering us out for some number of decades, but not forever here. We need to get long-term planning going. And Austin, as you very well know, hasn't been the best at long-term planning for transportation. And certainly they haven't done anything out our way. In fact, the plans have regressed. If you look back in the 2030 Campo plan, which it's about a 25-year out plan, it actually had plans out here for 620. 5 years later, they were gone. So we've actually regressed. We need to move back in the other direction, get some real fixes on the table, like maybe this one here from TXDOT for the near term, and then get some long-term fixes up on the radar. So that's our plan here, and we got to work together to make it happen.
Brian, one question. As you're looking towards public support for this, a lot of people kind of felt shortchanged with that shortening of the lane. Can somebody from TXDOT address that? Give us some kind of answer about what happened there?
Boycott Walgreens.
Sure. What happened on there was that the dual right was supposed to extend past the driveway that's for Wells Fargo and Walgreens. And so when we presented it, we showed it to the public, but we never had a conversation with those businesses. And so what was going to happen was, right now the way the driveway is, it's a full access. Folks can make lefts in and out of their driveway, and then so that driveway on 620 is a full access. The driveway on their driveway connection on 2222 is only a right in, right out. It's one of those things where that was what was permitted. So what we didn't think about was we were basically locking them in to where nobody could make a left in or out of their development. So we did approach them on it. It was one of those things to where there was a concern that that would affect their traffic coming in because they couldn't have that. We also looked at possibly opening up 2222 to allow lefts, but traffic wasn't any better over there. So it was mainly to allow that business to have the access that they were permitted for. Is the reason why. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're going to move on, and I'm going to do this part of the presentation real quick because we've got other folks here to present. But I'm going to roll through here and give you a real quick update on development. That's feeding a lot of the traffic. It's been feeding a lot of crowding in our schools, and so then we got some interesting proposals for you here tonight. And just to give you a preview of what's coming up, we're going to have an update from Pam Wagner and Jimmy Disler from LISD on access to Vandegrift. We are going to have a presentation on egress options here in a moment from Steiner Ranch, if there was an evacuation. A lot of other good topics. So I know it's getting late, but most of y'all can stick through this. So these are all the areas that are shown they're going to be developed. This is the front of Steiner Ranch. That's Quinlan Park Road and 620. All the areas in yellow are being developed or will be developed, plan to be developed. So pretty much the balance of what's left. Give you a quick run through. MU11 is the homes that are going in from Taylor Morrison. And as you all know, that was kind of a scalping of the hill type of deal. And we did reach out to them, and they were very receptive to doing something to mitigate the scalping look, the aesthetics. And so they agreed to put in a bunch of big trees. You can see, actually I took this picture, a bunch of them went in last week. And they're going to put additional trees beyond what they normally would, strategically placed so that in the long run, those trees will fill out. And when you look at the hill, you won't just see a mass of houses, you'll see some trees in there break it up. So that's kind of good, relatively speaking. And next one here I want to highlight for you is apartments. This was one of the impetus for Steiner Ranch Neighborhood Association being formed, that and fires, back at the end of 2011. And so the one that's circled here is called MU13, just over 300 apartments going in. That one was on the books since back then. It finally got a new developer, and they're moving forward with that. You've probably seen some more dirt moving over there, a lot of construction. So that's happening now.
Where is that?
That is, if you look at this map, the road going vertical here, up and down, is Quinlan Park Road. Steiner Ranch Boulevard is the road heading off to the right and weaving up. And Steiner Steakhouse is up there on the right. Thank you. Okay, next one up, just to make it aware, is MU1B. This is the development here that's behind Randall's, up on the hill. Here's 620, here's Randall's, here's Canyon Glen, here's that Vista Ridge shopping center right here, where the Welcome Center used to be. And so this hill here will have development on it. On the back side, it's developed into 3 sections by power lines. You can kind of see them in the tree lines here. On this back side, there's going to be more apartments, about 250 apartments going in. And for the folks in Canyon Glen, you've seen the road construction happening here already. Now the good news is for them, the apartments aren't on this side of the hill. They're on the side of Randall's and 620. But what happened here is there is a road. There's a road that's going to go all the way around the hill to provide access to the apartments. And so the initial proposal was that that road would actually provide access for folks in the apartments to have a second exit. Exit was actually required for fire purposes to have 2 exits out. But the concern, of course, was that folks would end up cutting through the neighborhood and causing a safety hazard. So the developer did agree that here at this location where this access will take, is there, it's going to be electronic gates. Folks from Canyon Glen are going to get clickers. They'll be able to use that road to access what will be a new signal over here at this shopping center. So the only silver lining is for folks in Canyon Glen, they'll finally have a way to get out when it's time for school. But for everyone else, it'll be very important when that light gets implemented, of course, that it's timed and doesn't get in our way. Super quick. Yes?
Sorry, where's the exit of Food Park?
Sorry, I know it's hard to see. So here's Canyon Glen, and there's this little dead, what was a little stubble road here, and that's going to connect now into here, and it's going to connect over to the shopping center in effect. But only with the clicker and only for the folks that are residents. So that was good that we were able to negotiate that with the developer on behalf of the residents. At least it's not worst case scenario.
How are they getting all these permits without making improvements to the roads or commitments to
This is a very good question. I should have probably addressed up front. The crux of all of this is, for folks here in Steiner Ranch, there was what's called the Steiner Ranch Development Agreement. If you go to our steinerranchna.org website, go under development issues, you can actually look at that entire agreement in the dozens of pages that it is. And that agreement outlined the City of Austin, who controls development in this area. We're in the City of Austin ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction. And so the City of Austin actually made an agreement with the developers out here that allowed for a certain amount of development and a ease of development with respect to approving each individual project. So they basically made an upfront bulk agreement that said you can build so many houses, you can build so many square feet of commercial real estate, so much impervious cover. And that happened now decades ago. And so that's been on the books since way back then, way before we had traffic problems, way before we had these other sensitivities. You know, it would have been nice to go back in time to influence that, put some checks and balances into that process so that not everything can get built, without going through some kind of review, but that's just not what it is. So legally, the city contracted with the developer to do that, to allow for all of this. And that's why, and we're not in the city limits, so that's why you see these projects happening and getting pushed through easily, because we really don't have any hooks or tentacles legally. The city doesn't, the county doesn't, to regulate that development unless it has just obey code. That's it. So that, to answer your question, it's an important question. Thank you. They don't tell you that when you buy, but it's all right. Hopefully, we're almost through it here, folks. The development's almost done. Down here in McCormick Ranch, at the bottom here of Steiner Ranch, y'all may be familiar. Last December, there was some noise about this when it was going through planning and review. A small part of this actually is in the city. Actually, the city limited purpose zone cuts right around here. And so, if you're in the city, you do have to go through zoning. So that's one place where checks and balances sort of exist. This did get approved, so about 131 homes coming in here to McCormick Ranch. There's an additional site around here that has some more room for homes as well, but not as big. And finally, up front, and I have this one I want to focus on just for an extra minute, because it's important. This is MU14. So this is here, what I guess you could call the front door of Steiner Ranch. 620 here, Quinlan Park Road here. This big green valley right here is MU14. And what's being planned right now, about 150 three-bedroom plus duplexes. Now, the reason these are a concern, number of reasons. Number one, as you saw, pretty much all the real estate left over here is going to be turned into residences. So density is going up, traffic congestion is going up, school crowding is going up, three-bedroom units are going to bring a lot more congestion. But even beyond that, we do have some particular concerns. And one of those in particular is that there's only going to be one exit from this property, and that exit will allow for a right to turn only headed towards 620. So you can imagine all the folks that move in there, looking forward to taking their kids to nice schools out here, and then they can't get their kids to school in the morning without going up to the light and doing a U-turn. And it's not too safe to do a U-turn with 70-mile-an-hour traffic going past. And so you can just imagine the kind of maneuvers folks are going to have to go through, either cutting across, doing illegal things, or taking a nice tour in the morning with your kid and maybe have a good one-on-one time. We're going to get to the school coming all the way around the bend. Silver lining, 3 years from now, if this traffic plan goes in, you might be able to do it, in 8 minutes. But it's definitely not. It doesn't seem like this would be an ideal or a compatible use for that property. I think anyone who's really looked at it really objectively and said, is residential a good fit for that property? I think, unless you're making them little one-bedrooms and it's only commuters or something like that, probably not, just for the reasons we just said. And furthermore, there's other poor qualities here, right? I mean, it will add to the schools, but It's right at the front door of Steiner Ranch. It's not the best aesthetic use, but maybe that's not the primary concern. But last but not least, another issue here, folks, is that we're pretty much out of impervious cover here in Steiner Ranch. So what does that mean? It just means if as a community, in the long run, we ever wanted to build anything else of significance to benefit the community, in future times, when all our pocketbooks are a little fatter with change and we want to do that, we won't be able to do it because we don't have anything to build on. And this could be that place, MU14. It's got 10 acres of impervious cover credits attached to it. So the alternate proposal I'll float out here for you today. And I want you to think carefully about it. It's on your surveys for those who've got one. And I want you to think about this and please let us know what you think. An option could be, the concept is, property tax owners could purchase this property. Estimate $6 to $8 million. It could be done by a bond vote through WCID 17, Steiner Ranch defined area, and the vote would be to raise the max debt cap because we've already borrowed over the history of Steiner Ranch the maximum. You'd have to allow for more. The actual net of it for about that price range is approximately, these are rough estimates, 2 to 3 cents per 100 tax. So actual taxes are already set to go down for this WCID 17 defined area. Taxes are going to go down in the next couple of years. That's great news and great work by WCID 17. They refinanced a lot of their bonds, and so our taxes are going to go down. So what would happen if we did this is your taxes would still go down, but they'd go down by less. So you're still paying, it's not free money, but it would feel a little lighter in the pocketbook, in fact. So with that concept in mind, what would we get? Well, what we would get would be, in effect, WCID 17 would purchase it as a park. That's what they're legally allowed to do, besides being a water district. Water districts are allowed to manage water, and also allowed to build parks. So it would be a park, with the ability to build on up to 10 acres of impervious cover for future improvement. You could imagine a library, a community center, or something of that nature to benefit the community in the long run. That would then be allowed for on this property. We'd also have control over the frontage of Steiner Ranch. We'd have less crowding and less cars. So that all sounds maybe reasonable if you think it's a good value cost benefit for this community. What's the catch? The catch is the land isn't for sale. That's the catch. Okay? So we've broached this issue with Taylor Morrison. It is a complicated lot. There are multiple owners of that lot. It's got a complicated arrangement that goes with it. But I do think that there's a shot, maybe a long shot, but there's a shot that if this community, if you think that what I floated out here is a good idea and you want to think about it, pursue it further, if we go for this, if you'd like to think about doing that, then we could approach Taylor Morrison as a community, not just one guy from Steiner's Neighborhood Association saying, hey, why don't we buy your property, but the community saying, we really don't like what you're planning to do here, and we could have a win-win if you let us buy it. You know, you're not going to take a loss on it. We're going to give you something for it. So everyone here, please think about it. Fill out your surveys, contact us, let us know what you think. I'll just go ahead and just take a quick straw poll, raise a hand. Who in here would want to look further into this and think it might be a good idea? Wow. Okay. That answers that question.
Brian, quick question. Originally, MU14 was earmarked a couple of years back to be the storage area.
Yes.
It's now on the opposite side of the street. How did we get here to the set of apartments?
Well, the original concept was, believe it or not, do a threefold usage. Storage area coupled with apartments, coupled with commercial. It was all going to go in, just the storage was going to go in first. And so that's where it started. It was all three of those. And where we got here was that something didn't go well with the storage. There was public outcry against it. That may have been a key factor. But maybe that other dynamics took place as well to kind of push them away from that option. I don't know I'm not privy to all their details. Did that answer your question? Sorry.
Brian, what can we, first of all, I mean, that's a bad lot for other reasons from Taylor Morrison's standpoint. It's low lying, it's 30 feet below the highway, it's crappy land for them to build on. What can we do to get leverage so they realize building on this is going to be the worst nightmare?
I agree. Good point.
What can we do?
It's an expensive lot to build on, so yeah, absolutely.
So what can we do? I mean, legally, what can we do? Is it worth? Is there a way
Well, legally, what we have done to this point is there's an ordinance ordinance is the right thing, or a state law that says you have to have more than one exit from a property if you have more than 30 homes. Homes counts as duplexes as well, not apartments, homes. And so because of that rule, and we've made it very clear, both to the fire district and to the county, that we really hope they would enforce that rule strongly, and they have. So this is not the first time, this is like the third time that they've tried to get this project through. And this time they hired Armbrust & Brown, nice legal firm in town. They brought him in, said, hey, come on guys, we can figure a way to solve the reason for the ordinance, which is there's a fire limitation. Let's put in fuel breaks, let's do other things to make this work out. And so from what I understand, at an administrative level, the developer has kind of massaged this one through. And I don't think, and the question really is there a way to even stop it really there on that front? And Sarah Krause is here, she may be able to say a word, but from what I understand, legally, the developer could inevitably sue the county and force them to buy it if they don't let it through and do reasonable things to accommodate them.
Great, let them sue.
Yeah, I agree. And if it was my druthers, I think I would love the county to have denied them 3 times.
Why don't we sue them first, or sue the county for letting them do something that's clearly been illegal? It's illegal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's I think in the end of the day here, if we can approach this as a win-win, and I think clearly, based on what we just saw here, public sentiment would be in support of this. It makes a lot of sense. Let's take our case to them. I think that's what we're saying
But
here.
what Taylor Morrison doesn't give a shit about our public sentiment. All they care about is whether they can build on it. So why not get leverage by making it look difficult? So I'm sorry.
Another issue, and as my advisor here, Mr. Sandel, informed me, and my chief financial officer over there has let me know on a regular basis, we don't have enough money to retain a return.
Great question. So everybody here needs to know that, and if maybe we set aside a separate $50,000 fund to go after them, make sure they can't build on it.
Yeah, given the interest here, just here, and this concept, it may in fact be worth doing exactly that, is setting up an initiative to go off and aggressively pursue this. I think that's what I got out of this, and that's what we're going to go off and do. So actually, I appreciate involvement. For those who want to be involved in this issue, we will set up a special committee to go after this.
So I'm going to let Jimmy talk about the LISD portion, but I want to talk to you first, 1 second, about the traffic committee. Our sole purpose, as you see, this is on so many different levels. There is, whatever you want to get involved in, there's something here for you to get involved in. What the traffic committee's sole purpose is a second entrance into and outside and out of Vandegrift High School and 4 Points Middle School. That's our sole focus, and that's what we're going to stay focused on. I heard the question earlier, why can't we use that road? Well, it is in the BCCP, and yet there's several covenants that allow for us to continue to improve the road that's already there and dry. But of course, attorneys for one side agree with that, and attorneys on the other side do not agree with that. So that is where we are. We will constantly and continue to fight to get that road. Brian has mentioned several times tonight, Representative Workman, Commissioner Doherty, Commissioner Todd. There's also Mayor Leppingwell, Representative Donna Howard. All of them at one point or another have really showed their support for building the second road inside or into and outside of Vandegrift and 4 Points Middle School. And folks, it is going to take our elected officials to do this. So feel free to tell them thank you, show your support for them, because without their support, this will not get done. TXDOT has done a lot of work putting it on the drawing, and they've actually have a model that shows the Vandegrift, we're just going to call it the Vandegrift Road for now, but the Vandegrift Road coming off of 4 Points Drive, going into the school and how that would affect traffic. But the most important thing that we're going for is the safety of our students as well as our workers and people just coming in and out of there. That would take all of Vandegrift, 4 Points traffic coming out of Steiner Ranch, coming from Grandview Hills, and even if the Bullock Hollow people want to take the left, it would take all of that traffic straight through 2222 instead of going down 620 to turn left onto McNeil. It is an absolute vital, most important road. It's the most important project we can work on. It is not just for our kids, although their safety is my utmost concern, but it's for all of us, and it will help the traffic around here. So I'm going to let Jimmy, who is our Executive Director of Capital Improvements for Leander, which means he builds. He builds all of our schools, he puts in electricity, builds everything. I'll let him go ahead and explain exactly where we are in that process right now.
Thank you, Pam. Real quick, I've got about probably 2 hours worth of slides, so I probably won't take but a couple of minutes real quick. Those that don't know, I know it was mentioned earlier about the power line that goes down through here, why we didn't just build. Actually, we've been discussing this over 3 years as far as access back there. And so the traffic committee and the district has been working real hard to try to get a road back here. Partnering with 3M, we've got to have their cooperation as well. They've agreed to let us, if this road ever does get built, to actually go through the corner of their property also. If you'll move forward. This blows it up a little more. The actual placement of this road is not set. This is just approximate. There's actually a primary infrastructure corridor here that's 420 feet wide. The power lines run through there, and so we're just proposing to come off 4 Points of River Place, come in and come back in to access these campuses. As Pam said, our primary goal is to get a secondary access. One, if you have any situation on the campus, we need that secondary access, and so that's one of our primary goals. As I mentioned, we've been working on this for a very long time, and we knew going into it, it was going to be a very slow process. I mean, you do have the Balcones Canyon land preserved back here, which is, basically controlled by Fish and Wildlife and the BCCP group. And so what we're doing is working with that, and we're actually submitting our own habitat conservation plan to Fish and Wildlife. Probably our goal is by August 1st to be submitting a draft plan to them, which would actually start the negotiations and review by Fish and Wildlife of what has to be done for mitigation, et cetera, and what takes would be, I guess, afforded in this area. Of course, another thing that has made it more complicated is the listing of the salamanders and various things recently by fish. So that's slowed the process also, but we are working diligently to come up with this secondary access. That's pretty much where we are. I do want to echo what Pam and Brian have said. Representative Workman, Commissioner Todd, and Doherty have been very instrumental working with us and pulling together TXDOT to look at all there. They know there's a problem out here and they're trying to help solve it. So make sure you do thank them.
Thank you, Jimmy and Pam. And thanks again for the 4 Points Traffic Committee for all they've done. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Steve Manila. He's the County Executive for TNR for Travis. He's going to talk about egress options that they've been looking at in the event of an emergency and so on.
Thank you. A couple of clarifications on what the county's role is out here. You may or may not know that all of the numbered road system, that's TXDOT. Everything that's in Steiner Ranch, except for any private roads, are going to be maintained by Travis County. So if there's any changes to the roadway network in Steiner Ranch, that has to come through Travis County for approval. We also have approval authorities of development that occurs in the ETJ, limited purpose areas. The city has some control. They typically weigh in on the environmental issues. The county weighs in on the transportation issues when a plat comes in. But ultimately, in the end, it is going to be the county that's going to be maintaining the roads in the ETJ, outside the ETJ, and the ones that won't are private roads, and that's up to the private owners. What Brian had asked me to do is take a look at, or to bring you up to speed on where we are with looking at additional access into Steiner Ranch. Ever since the 2011 fires, we've been taking a look at that along with a number of other issues. We've been involved in quite a few initiatives, including the development of a joint task force, community action plan, and so on and so forth. But the main thrust right now is looking at providing additional access somewhere within the peninsula so that you don't all have to go through the Steiner Ranch, Twin Park Road intersection to get up to 620. We looked at about a half a dozen, or identified about a half a dozen different alignments, some crossing over the river with pedestrian bridge, some with a motor vehicle bridge, trying to get to pop out somewhere else on 620. And what we ultimately boiled down to is We feel like the best solution for initial access, at least for emergency purposes, would be to take a roadway off of, excuse me, while I get the description here. Okay, so I'll just describe where it's coming from, so I don't have a map for that. But if you're heading north on Quinlan Park Road, you come to the first intersection of Steiner Ranch, you take a left onto that road, and you hook up with Flat Top Ranch Road. And you take that until you get to near the river. There is an opportunity to cross over into Fritz Hughes Park if we build a connector road between Flat Top and I think it's Montcliff. So that's what we would propose to build as part of a safety improvement project that we will present to the commissioners to see if we can get that funded. Now, competing against that, the other thing that Brian asked me to look at is the intersection of Steiner Ranch and 620 near the Comanche Trail intersection. There's been a long wait for some improvements to the Steiner Ranch 620 intersection. I understand it's very important to y'all coming out of there, particularly take a left heading towards Lakeway. I do that myself. It's not an easy thing that I would want young kids to try to do, but it is what it is. We would want to work with TXDOT to see if it's possible to put a signal there, but they have their own constraints to work with. And one of the things I mentioned is that the City of Austin is controlling the signals. That's true to an extent. They're operating like we are. We control or approve the installation of traffic signals on county roads. TXDOT does the same for state roads, but both of us contract with the City of Austin to do the operation and maintenance of them. It's more efficient that way, it saves money. So it's going to be our final say on any county road. In the situation with 620 and Steiner Ranch, it's shared by us and TXDOT. They have the authority, they're the primary road at that intersection. So they're going to have to approve whatever we present to them. You probably know from past discussions about traffic signals, you have to meet warrants. They have to do a warrant study. We think that that's very possible, that it can meet it, but one of the constraints that they have to deal with is separation between traffic signals. And if they get too close together, they kind of screw each other up as far as processing cars through. However, if we can get some additional separation, like 1,000 feet is what's desired, then that would take that constraint off the table. All we would have to deal with then is the warrant study. And that's going to eventually happen because of the volumes of traffic those roads are carrying. So one of our options we looked at was let's separate those intersections some more and try to get that 1,000 feet. It's expensive to do that, but it is a possibility. And we would take that to TXDOT if we were to get the approval from the court. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys, a straw poll myself, is if you had $3 million and only $3 million, and each one of those projects costs $3 million, would you want us to put the money into that secondary access or to put it into reconstructing the Steiner Ranch 620 intersection? So the secondary access, any support?
One question here.
Sure.
Secondary access, did you say emergency only?
It could be, and we would want to work with the community on that. It could be that way. I don't think it would be very convenient to other people otherwise. And I'm sorry, again, I don't have a map. Again, just emergency access would be all weather, probably be a concrete paved lane, or maybe 15, 16 feet wide, that would be gated off until it's needed. That's one option that we would take to the court. I have to put a placeholder in our budget request for this year, and I don't know whether to ask them for that or the realignment of the intersection. Yeah, please do.
Just to be clear, we're the low water crossing road option that Steve talked about. So here we've got Steiner Ranch Boulevard kind of coming through here and snaking around. And so the option he talked about was basically more or less at the end of Flat Top Ranch Road, trying to cut through here to Fritz Hughes Park Road. And if you know well, I mean, once you get over there, it's not the convenient way to access 620. So you're not. This wouldn't be an everyday thing. This would be an emergency thing, and it would help. Basically, it says, you know, if you can get from down here up to there, and if for some reason that way was blocked, you could come out that way. So that's essentially what that does. And then the other option here is, of course, Steiner Ranch Boulevard. I'm trying to signalize that. Sorry.
Hey, Brian, you still have access issues with 620 though, you got out that way, right?
Yeah, once you got on to Fritchie's Road, then you can go to 620. You come out on the east end of the bridge. Across the,
Hey, why not, eliminate Steiner Ranch? Would that be what
we did look at that, and that was one of 5 options we looked at for improving that intersection. The problem with coming directly from Comanche to Steiner Ranch is you've got too much vertical separation, not enough horizontal length to get it down. You wind up with a 12% grade coming off of 620 and a little down and catch up with Steiner Ranch. There's also environmental issues with that and all the other options we looked at. The one option we looked at that is doable and still has some environmental issues, but nothing near what the other ones did was relocating this intersection. That option we're talking about is way less expensive, but engineering-wise, it's a problem. That 12% grade coming down. That's the type of things we have to go out and fix if they just don't work well from the traffic.
It's not possible to remain trail over
That is another option that we did look at. That does provide a better technical solution, but the environmental side of it, it's one of the more complicated environmental issues that we have to deal with. Yes, ma'am.
Since you're considering pedestrian and vehicular bridges, have you thought about doing Mercer Road and crossing that, because there's no grade there, you get on the side of the river, and then crossing it over to Steiner Ranch down Portland Park, Axel and Hughes Road?
We did take a look at that connection, building a pedestrian or motor vehicle bridge over to Murphy Road, and it's cost. I think all of these options we looked at cost anywhere from $400,000 up to $9 million for the improvements up at Steiner Ranch and 620. There's other half a dozen and another half a dozen options available to them. A total of 11 options looking for this additional egress. That range from $400,000 up to $22 million.
But if one section is burning, the last section is, you're gonna have to go over the river or something.
That's right. I mean, yeah, that's exactly right. And this is a big concern. And everybody who lives kind of, or would happen to be south of, up on that other map, south of Steiner Ranch Boulevard, you've got pretty much, if for some reason it got cut off right there, you're stuck down here. And so in a couple minutes, we're going to have Lake Travis Fire Rescue going to get up and talk about if there was another emergency, what would happen to address those concerns. As Steve said, when we met last summer, we were pushing on this exact point, and we thought, what we really would like to see is a way for the entire peninsula to evacuate, have a second way out. And the option that Steve mentioned of trying to come through here to Murphy Road, it would clearly be emergency only. And we were not able to find a good cost-viable solution for that. I think he said like $15 million and up for an emergency-only bridge, coming off of maybe one of the Steiner's boat ramps inside of Caslano. That's kind of where it has to be, right? So it's not really a super awesome option there for the bridge. One thing that was the pedestrian bridge option, in theory maybe that one could still work, but there's a question is, does it really make sense to use a pedestrian bridge to evacuate 10,000 people? Is that really going to work? So I think where we ended up with that is evacuation is principally going to be addressed by and large by what Lake Travis Fire Rescue is about to tell us in a few minutes. But there is this option for a incremental enhancement of ways out, either on Little Park Crossing Road, as Steve described, or there's this everyday safety issue of Steiner Ranch Boulevard and how it connects to 620. And so that's where a lot of that's kind of where the emphasis has been moving over there in a way.
So quick question about the Steiner Ranch expansion tie-in. So you were talking about the developers using the pre-approved plans from way back when, whatever it is they want. That was always included in tie-in financing when the development was originally done. Is that not the least challenge that existed?
Steve, from what I understood, you actually would have to open up your VCCP permit to implement that option. I think is that your main roadblock?
Yeah. There is an issue with, you all are aware of the VCP, and if we were to try to build a road through it, that would be open up our whole program to revision, which allows people to come in and weigh in and challenge think back to where it first began 20 years ago.
Wasn't that in the original plan? That's what I was told, that tie-in Steiner and Boulevard Connection Trail was in the original plan. It was done in DCCP, so audit part of the DCCP plan now.
I don't know. I know that some of the roads out here, like Holy Hollow, for example, that is also in it, but there is a very defined narrow corridor. So you have to open that corridor back up if you want to put something different in than what's currently there.
If we could discover those documents, we would definitely want that. If we could discover documentation for that, it sounds like it would be a good thing to have. And just to point out a comment on what Steve said, this strip of land here, we're talking about dozens of yards here, and this is opening up the BCCC permit because there is no corridor here established unless we can find something that documents it, right? And it gives you an idea of the challenge that, you know, and the level of support we need to try to make that transportation corridor for Vandegrift work through the BCCP, even though it's a little bit different situation. But this is only 30-some yards, you know.
How far would it be from the Comanche line to the new line?
So what Steve was saying is that they're going to try to push. So right now there's a light here, and so this is too close to put another light. The existing Steiner Ranch. Sorry, the chart doesn't go far enough. But what Steve was saying is they basically could theoretically push this back out far enough so you have a safe light out here that you can take a left out, take a left in. Whereas today this doesn't serve that function. And one of the issues is not only the danger, which is the primary issue, but the fact that we've got the new development coming in along Steiner Ranch Boulevard means there's probably going to be increased pressure out on this intersection. Now, one nice thing that could happen, if you think about it, is if we could do a right out over here now under that brand new lane that TXDOT proposed, and still have signaling to allow for a left out, that could be a nice dovetail of the two proposals. So, sorry, what do you straw poll?
Losing my voice quick, so I do want to try to get a strong poll. If you don't, obviously would prefer the money be spent on the emergency access road. Okay, and those who want to see the reconstruction of Steiner Ranch, 620, all right, thank you. We do go through our budget process annually. They don't normally fund large projects in their annual budget. We typically save the big projects for a bond referendum. The next one we're anticipating is 2017 timeframe. We have one in 2011, and we're cash flowing in 7 years to spend that now. If you have questions, you can call me or give hold of Brian, and he'll get a hold of me. Thanks very much.
If anyone does end up having to leave early, please don't forget to turn in your forms. And as we go through these items, we're almost done, folks, but an important one coming up here on evacuation. If you could please fill out your survey as we go through, that's probably the most efficient thing for you. The survey is kind of ordered in the order of our presentation. So one of our final presenters here is Chief Bobby Abbott here, talking about evacuation.
Evening. I want to thank everybody for hanging in there. I'm going to keep it short, and I'm going to stay afterwards. If anybody has any questions I didn't cover, you'll have a chance to ask them one-on-one. First and foremost, we hear your concerns about traffic. It impacts our business as well, and our business is getting to you when you call 911. Obviously, we've had the historic fires. We were there with you. It's one of the most supportive communities we serve. We serve one of the largest areas of the county. Specifically for the discussion tonight, I want to address the EVAC. Is first and foremost, the fire department doesn't have any regulatory authority on traffic flow. There's a big misconception that we can tell somebody to drive against traffic. That we don't have that authority in Texas. So I'm going to leave some of those questions of deployment and how we would evacuate to the Sheriff's Department. I will confirm to you that we are working on a plan for EVAC. Our concerns are widespread. It's not just wildland fires that we're concerned about. We're also concerned if there's a hazardous material spill. We're also concerned if there was some type of medical scenario that was large scale that would block, like a mass casualty that would block the intersection. These are all things, not just wildland fires, that we have to consider. And I also want to point out that we do have experience building an emergency road. Approximately 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, we put in what was called a 911 road that we funded out of the fire department budget between River Place and one of the roads leading from City Park. Let's be honest, how many people use that for daily transit? All right. I bet there's some who have, and some probably will tonight. This doesn't have a gate. All right. I'm looking for a place out here. I'm actually looking for in Steiner. and the realtor mentioned that. And they didn't know I worked for the fire department. It kind of rubbed the nerve, because I'm like, you're not supposed to be using that. But people do use that. And I think the question, where would your money be better spent, in reality is trying to get volume out of here. That's what we've learned from 2011, is volume. I don't know if there's enough land. I'm not a road engineer or traffic engineer by any means. But if that road was not large enough for a means of egress for a large part of the community, the volume is not going to be there. It's going to serve a smaller population than probably what you would think right now. So that would be something that we would take in consideration. How we conduct evacuations, I want to kind of point to this question of shelter in place. Obviously, in 2011 fires, we evacuated the whole community. If we were to do things over again, I'm going to be humble here, we would probably have done a lot of things different. We've learned quite a bit from that. We've installed programs since that fire to better serve the community. One of the things that we would have looked at is sheltering in place, especially with the Longhorn Village is one, trying to evacuate that building. It's a very safe building. It's got a lot of fire protection systems built in. Is it necessary to evacuate a skilled nursing facility like that? Those are things we would ask ourselves and coordinate that with law enforcement, because ultimately law enforcement has the authority to contrafloat if in fact that was to happen, or open up roads or shut roads down. So I don't want to take too much from their presentation because they're working on a lot of things. The other thing that was brought up was fire codes. Some people in our community would like to try and shut projects down strictly through the fire code. I think it's important to understand how we administer the fire code. The fire code is to keep, obviously, citizens safe. There is some flexibility and alternatives in there for builders. We work with the city of Austin just as much as you guys do. And a lot of times we're having to go back and do some of the things that they have enacted from years ago that we legally don't have the authority to change. It's very frustrating for us. One of those things is a means of egress and some of the alternatives that are built into the fire code. Steiner Ranch, part of it is within the city, and part of it is within the ETJ. And that's a constant challenge that we try and balance with the city of Austin's direction that they're taking things. And in fact, the fire code. If a builder was to come in and put something on the ground, we have to ensure that certain things happen. Means of egress, hydrants, occupancy certification, and so forth. And that does happen. I will report to you that most of the developers are very responsive to that. Then they put up against some things that maybe they were told years ago, which was brought up tonight, which we have a hard time legally combating within the fire code, because the fire code is not designed to be applied like that. So we do have a bunch of literature, and I don't want to cut it short, but I know you guys have been here, and we have a few other presenters. I have my business card up there. It's got my email. If you have any questions or if you need to run, please grab one and email me, and somebody from the fire department will get in touch with you, and I will be here after the close of this meeting. Brian, did you want to have any question, or you just want to wait till the end? Okay, just a couple questions. Notification, if you've read the after-action report that Travis County published, one of the challenges that we had is notifying some of the areas because some people had signed up registered their home line, their landline, through the notification system, but the notification, those lines, those transmission lines, those phone lines were burned through. So there was population in Steiner Ranch that never physically got the call because the lines were burned through. And that was found a couple of weeks after the Steiner Ranch fire. Notification, in 2011, we were behind somewhat of the times as the fire department social media. I'll be honest. We've since hired a consultant to get us up to the technology that we need to ensure that we're getting our messages out there. And we're heavily now relying on social media to relay a lot of that information out there. We're also working with local community leaders, neighborhood associations to ensure that our words and our messages are getting out there in a timely manner. We seek any opportunity to communicate better with the public wherever we can. So if there's something that we're missing, that we're not hitting all the dots on, please let us know. Let us know if there's something we can do differently, or if we're not reaching the intended audience like we should. Let us know. We're not masters of public communication like we should be, and I will say that.
We actually hired a gentleman out of Steiner Ranch to assist us with that, David Perkins, and David Perkins, to help us with that. So if there's anybody here that could lend assistance, please let us know, and we would love to hear it.
Is there a single point, is there a single place if there's an emergency that folks would want to go to get that information? Is it your Facebook page or somewhere that?
We update our Facebook page with any emergency more often than anything else. So if you're not friends with us on, sound like my niece, if you're not friends with me on Facebook, go ahead and like us, and you'll get the messages. We also don't try to clutter up a lot of the stuff with just arbitrary, hey, check this out. We're very proud of our staff. We're very proud of the community we serve. We do communicate some of the things we're doing in the public. But when we put something up on Facebook, we want to make sure that it's got weight and it's got significance to your life. So yeah, Facebook would definitely be the first place. Yes, sir.
You know how they have the Amber Alert? Is there anything in the works for disaster alerts?
Yes. When you say in the works, it's very still much in the works. And it's a regional system through Travis County and the state. And CAPCOG, the regional planning organization that does a lot of the communication statewide. That's where a lot of our 911 dollars and funding comes through. So a lot of us are kind of directly linked to that. And also when you pick up 911, those same dollars operate and fund part of the 911 system that takes your call. And I know the Sheriff's Department has something directly on that one thing. So again, thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging in there. My card's over there if you want to send us an email, and I'll be here after the meeting. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. My name is Michael Canales. I'm the captain of the West Command with the Travis County Sheriff's Office. I just want to add a few more things to the evacuation. We're currently working diligently with the Lake Travis Fire and Rescue on producing a well-conceptual type of a plan that's going to be very similar to what we used back in 2011. Now, to answer one of your questions, sir, there is a CAPCOG, or the Capital Area Council of Governments, has a new system that's called the Regional Notification System. You can register with that through CAPCOG. It's www.capcog.org. And I can leave some more, we have some information about that we'll give you some flyers. Basically what it does, in the event of a situation, or an incident, whether it's emergency, such as the fire, it's even, or weather related, or even a non-emergency situation, it can send information directly to your cell phone, whether it be a text, email, or even, I believe, even Twitter. So you can go ahead and register online to get that, because I'm going to tell you, there are some things that are going to go away that we are working on. This reverse 911 is also a situation that is not very well, that we're going to be using. And so this is one of the things that we are going to be using in the future to contact people directly in the event of emergencies. But we're going to need your help to do that, which means that you're going to have to go ahead and get online and register. You can do it from your home. You can register to contact in the area of your home or even your businesses. You can put more than one cell phone on there. It's just like the chief said. If your communications of your landlines go out, the other opportunity is going to be your cell phones. And a lot of us have that technology, and we're going to be carrying everything on our cell phones. Now, yes, sir. Well, that's what I'm talking about. So when you register with this, it's basically taking the address that you put in there, and if there's an incident near your home, it's going to send that information to you no matter where you're at. So that's how it works. And you can put multiple addresses in for multiple areas. Yes, sir.
This past Memorial Day, I was down in the Houston area where they had all the tornado watches and all that. I was driving through there, and I got a notification evacuation through some kind of emergency system to seek shelter and stuff. I don't understand why you can't do the same thing here and send out a blast of knowing the people that have cell phones.
Well, that's what this is about.
But I didn't have to register.
Well, that was done through probably one of your applications or through your carrier system. What it does is it tracks you wherever you're at. And if you have a, let's say, a weather app, what it does is it locates you where you're at. And if there's a situation in that area, it will send you an alarm. I got the same thing.
You couldn't do the same thing here in Steiner Ranch. Say if you're in the area of Steiner Ranch, send out a notification say fire.
Well, again, sir, that's exactly what this is. That's exactly what this is. It covers an 11 to a 13 county area to do so. Now, to address real quick the evacuation, I'm not going to go into much details with that because just like the chief said, there's a lot of complications involved with that. But we will be using 2 main arteries to get everybody out in the event we have to do evacuations. Again, like he said, should we have evacuated the whole subdivision? Yes, maybe not. Nevertheless, in the event we do have to do evacuations, understand that the traffic is going to be congested. It's going to be painful because you have 2 ways out here. Mainly, we would be using all the lanes out as possible on Quinlan and Steiner Ranch, and we would probably also utilize contraflow on the opposite roadways. All these particular plans have already been developed, and we were real close into giving you those plans so that you can understand exactly how they're going to allow you guys to leave the subdivision. Most likely it would encompass taking both lanes of Steiner Ranch, Steiner Boulevard, and using that as a complete 2-way out. Quinlan Park would probably end up taking the 2 lanes that we have and then 1 more. So we have 3 lanes going out and then on to 620 and thus out, whether you're going south or north. Now also understand this is also a coordinated effort that we have to utilize with the city because once they get out of the Quinlan, just before you get to 2222, that turns into the city. So now we have to coordinate that light and everything out toward everywhere else because we're going to basically we're taking 15,000 people and we're dumping them everywhere else. So that takes a lot of coordination. So these plans are currently being worked on, and as soon as possible, and I'm hoping early summer, we will be able to give these plans to this community so that you can understand exactly how we would evacuate everyone. Now, did everybody get, like I said, we have some flyers over here. There's one that's strictly that says the regional notification system. That's through the capital area, regional of governments. This, I would suggest, just for the sake of getting a weather alert or a tornado warning, in addition to fire or whatever's happening that's an emergency near your home or whatever address you put on it, will go directly to your email or your cell phone by text. I would suggest everyone to do so. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
Mike, question on your dual evacuation. Are you going to have personnel strategically placed on the property so that you can use both sides of Quinlan to get out?
Absolutely.
And so, for example, in 2011, one of the big bottlenecks we had was at the apartments on the hill.
Yes.
I think it was Monte Road at the time, whatever. A lot of our neighbors were stopped on the hill to take pictures. I'm not kidding you. But you're going to need somebody there to just keep moving everybody. Another cluster of people, neighbors, are parked at the Steiner Ranch Elementary right here to take pictures. Because by this time now, the fire was in the back 40 down here, behind section of the plateau. So, and we didn't have dual evacuation planned at the time. We were all trying to get out either Quinlan Park Road or up Steiner Boulevard, and it wasn't working real well. Hence the question on personnel.
13 motorcycles.
That'll do.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking tornado, and my sister lived up in California, and that's a couple of years ago, before we got the tornado. One of the problems was they had sirens, but they couldn't work. And they said that if
necessarily law enforcement. But yes, that's an excellent idea. Yes, ma'am.
If it's below the WAC limit, is there an evacuation plan by water?
Well, that is an option. I failed to say that there's a third, which is by water, but that would be very slow to go. But that is still an option that we did put in our plan. Now, as far as logistics behind that, we would have to ferry boats. Where would the boats come from, and so on and so forth. So, and again, we're separated from Lake Travis, so that, again, now you're in the jurisdiction of the city. So now we have to coordinate with the city. So, again, that's still an option, but we need to find the transportation. But again, you're only taking what's on your back. Yes.
So, I don't think this question got asked earlier of the other folks that gave presentations, but, or maybe they did not hear. Was there anything considered in terms of extending Quinlan, the far end of Quinlan, across Lake Austin?
You're asking the wrong person.
Not you.
Yeah, we're not in the business of building bridges. Okay, if no one else has any questions, again, yes, sir.
I just had a question about registering your phone. You said there's paperwork.
Yes, sir.
And my phone's an out-of-state area code. It's still under the...
All it takes is a phone number and a carrier. And basically how it works is that for those of you that know what the acronym GIS is, it takes your location from your address, and they have their GIS mapping. And what it does, whatever address you put there, it coincides it with your phone number.
So basically, based on what towers are around.
No, it's based on your address. It's based on your address. So whatever, if anything is happening around there, that address is tied to your phone number, no matter what phone number it is.
Okay.
And that's how you get that information. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me clarify this. There is a nationwide wireless emergency alert system that pretty much all modern phones built in the last 2 years can connect to. The system is based on where you are, and it requires no registration. And if you allow it, you will get a very obnoxious tone on your phone, which we get occasionally, and it's an Amber Alert for El Paso. But does Travis County participate in that nationwide system?
I'm not sure. I couldn't answer that at this point, but I can find out. I know that this is a regional system that involves 13 counties from Central Texas that your tax dollars goes into. So this is a part of a system that will directly notify you in case of whatever emergency. This NOAA, the weather part is just an added convenience to it. But this is an emergency notification if something's happening in and around that address that you place in. Okay.
Just a quick comment. Everything that we're going to get from the Sheriff's Department here and all the information that you just heard, we're going to do our best. We're going to consolidate that on our SteinerRanchNA.org website. We're going to put up a folder, a link, Community Meeting 2014, so that all the information the gentleman just told you will be at your fingertips.
Okay.
I promise I'm not going to take too much of your time. I know it's getting late, but I just wanted to go over some crime prevention tips, kind of make your house and your neighborhood not so immune to criminals. Before I even start with that, I just want to say, like it or not, social media is the way people are communicating. It will go back to fires, evacuations, crime. Travis County has a Twitter page, Facebook. You can set it up. You will get alerts from us. If it's crime in your area, if it's something that you're curious about what's going on, it may even be on Twitter. So please set it up. I'm a detective with the Sheriff's Office for about 4 years now. I've been assigned out here in the west part of Travis County. Been with them for 18 years, so the tips I'm about to give you are from my experience and also the most valuable from criminals that I talk to. And truly, you don't like them, but they give us some great advice. Recently, we just caught guys that started up here in Travis County, northwest Travis County, started here in Steiner Ranch, went through Lakeway, went down B Caves, ended up in Lost Creek. They spent about 18 hours targeting vehicles. 30 to 40 vehicles were involved. Once I got a hold of these guys, the first question I asked them, And I knew these guys from 7 years ago when I worked in North Austin. And they're just a little older, doing the same thing. I said, what are you doing out in West Travis County? And the first thing, and this is the quote they told me, was, people in gated communities and nice areas have a false sense of security. And truly that means is you're on locked doors. So the first thing you can do to help me and help yourself is lock your doors in your vehicles. I want to say at least 50% of the crimes I'm investigating are from unlocked vehicles and unlocked resident doors, open windows. The second thing is nothing in view inside. I mean, it might be an empty bag, it may even be an HEB bag, but they don't know. These guys told me that they would have not hit any of these vehicles if the doors were locked. That whole night, actually a day and a half, they didn't break one window, they just opened doors. Out of this whole crime spree, a gun was taken, was sold to some gang members who ran a search warrant there, so all that from unlocked doors. The second thing they're looking for is if your vehicle's parked on the roadway. If you have a driveway, put your car in the driveway if possible. Because for whatever reason, they think it's not as bad if they hit a car that's on the road versus in your driveway. So you can do that. The biggest thing is your garage door openers. Once they break in, their assumption is that your doors are unlocked inside your garage. And I'll bet you a lot of us leave our doors unlocked in the garage. They open it at nighttime and they're going to go inside. If they do it right then, or they're going to steal your garage door, you're going to be overwhelmed, you're going to forget about it, and then the next day when you're at work, they're coming back. So if you just lock your door, keep things out of plain view, put things away, put your car in the driveway, 50% chance that they're going to burglarize your vehicle is gone down. Another thing is, as a community, we can help each other out. I know you see something that you look suspicious and you say, I don't want to call 911, they're dealing with real emergencies. Well, truly, after a crime happens, I go talk to people in the area and they tell me, well, we saw this car, but we just didn't want to bother the sheriff's office. Bother us. What happens is we come out, even if they're driving the area, they're not doing nothing. Once they're stopped by our officers, our patrol officers, they're required to take their name, phone number. First clue is, hey, if they don't live in the area, they're going to call me and say, hey, we stopped this car. This guy had no good reason why he's from North Austin out here in Steiner Ranch. Well, now I just got a suspect from two days ago from burglars because they come back. And that little story I told you about the crime spree, this guy told me he's hit the same people 3 times. And on the 3rd time, he finally got a gun out of the car. So this person is leaving a gun in their car unlocked and has been burglarized twice before. So we can do a lot of things to make yourself not as appealing. On your houses, the simple thing is, if you're going out of town, and that's what people are targeting, they're looking for you to go out the weekend, don't put it on social media. Tell your kids, do not say, hey, we're headed so-and-so, because trust me, I use social media to find people. If I get a name, I run them through social media, I look at their kids, and you'd be amazed what people put on Facebook. So don't put on Facebook that you're going out of town, because trust me, if these are high school kids that are looking, this is where they're going on Facebook, they're going on Twitter. Talk to your neighbors, let them know you're out of town, make the house look like it's lived in. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for newspapers. It's kids that are associated with your kids that know you're going out of town. Let your neighbors know what vehicles are going to be there. We at the Sheriff's Office have a close patrol, and that's what it's called, close patrol, if you've ever used it. You can call us, let us know that you're out of town, tell us what car should be there, and the patrol officers, when they're not busy, are required to stop by your house. Maybe walk around the foot. If they see anything that looks out of the ordinary, then they're going to call it in. So simple as that. Obviously, if you see something, call 911. Do not approach these people, because an example in this case here is these guys 12 hours prior just stole a gun from a vehicle and committed more burglary. So now they're carrying a firearm. So don't approach them yourself. If you see us, don't even scare them away. Call us, and that's how we're catching them. When you don't go out there and scare them, you call 911. We're coming out there and we're catching them. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
From your knowledge, have you seen at all an increase in the rate of crimes committed in Steiner? Only because, I have the spot crime that gives me the updates, and I don't know if it's just me paying more attention or there's actually an increase. There's a lot of attempted burglaries and robberies in Canyon Glen and drug thefts and things like that in relation.
Well, I can tell you from
Have you seen an uptick at all in the crime?
Well, I can tell you from the physical numbers, property crimes have gone down in the last 5 years. And now, but you got to understand, you may see more because how many people don't report it? I'm sure we all know somebody says, well, they took nothing from my vehicle, so I'm not going to report it. Well, if you see more truly, it's probably because maybe people are starting to report it because we're asking you to report it. And that way we can kind of track. And what happens is if I get a burglar in this area, and there's 7 other burglars, I charge them with 7 more. And you got to understand, that guy didn't talk to me because he liked me. He was looking at about 20 different felonies. So, he's an habitual offender. So, in return, he gives me information. And another thing he told me that I passed on my patrol officers is that their policy is they do not break windows, and if they see a police car in the neighborhood, they move on to the next neighborhood. So obviously I go to the show-ups where our patrol officers meet, and I tell them, hey, if you're writing reports, just go in the neighborhood. Even if you're not paying attention, they don't know that. So if they see a police car, if they see neighborhood watch, when they see people out there, if your lights are on, they're looking for dark communities. And you gotta understand, large communities are kind of like Walmart to these guys because they come in here. Now the reason you're not seeing the large crime as in, Lost Creek, out in Westlake, so those large subdivisions, they have better access to get out. You don't have the best access to get out. I think you thought about that. In a sense, it helps us in the crime, so. As in, like, stop sobriety checks? Right. And trust me, I used to be in the BWI enforcement unit, and I agree with you. I wish we had it. But that's going to be legislation in the state of Texas. We don't have sobriety checkpoints, and truly, at this point to do it, it would be illegal and you can't. So, I mean, I'm behind it all the way, and you know how legislation gets started. But I agree with you, stuff like that, if you're seeing a lot of that, report it to us, because we do have BWI enforcement guys, and they're assigned west and they're assigned east. And if there's areas, and understand the high target areas are the main roads. But my bigger concern is drunk drivers in the community versus on the roadway. If I had to make a difference and decide, maybe I'd spend some more time in the community. So if you are seeing that, and you're seeing it in certain areas of Quinlan or Steiner Ranch, and I'm sure we all know when we watch the news, it's an everyday thing, and when you watch the news, it's a huge problem in DWIs, and I wish I had the answer to solve it, but I will pass it on to our DWI unit and let them know that you all are having issues out here. Yes, ma'am.
Do we know who vandalized the town square pool this past weekend?
I do not, and I'm not working that case. My fellow detective, Will Gonzalez, and I'm not throwing his name out there, Will Gonzalez. I will talk to him, because me and him work a lot of the cases. I help him on here, and he helps me on Westlake cases. But I will definitely talk to him, but I do not have the answer. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Are there hours for teenagers getting penalty hours?
Driving?
Walking, whatever?
As an ordinance, no. Now, people are confused. In the city of Austin, there are city ordinances on teenagers under the age of 17, 16. But in the county, no, there's not.
Okay, so the teenagers can walk 2 o'clock in the morning around neighborhoods?
Now, they may get stopped and questioned by the police, but truly, no, and there's no law against it. Because I know when I was a patrol officer, I see someone walking around 2 in the morning, I want to talk to them and see why they're walking around 2 in the morning. So, but yeah, there's nothing against law, and you don't have to talk to me, but I will try to talk to you. Yes, sir.
I've seen some evidence, video evidence of some high-tech burglaries in terms of opening the car without even having to have a key fob or break the window, things like that. It happened down in South Austin.
Right.
Have you seen an uptick on that?
Yes.
And then also too, I'm thinking if that's available, you got to pay attention. If you park the car in the driveway, get a home lane system or something like that, you might want to be activated because as soon as you get in the car, they go into the garage.
Right, right. And that truly is technology. Back in the day when I was a patrol officer, was many years ago, They used to take tennis balls and cut a circle around it. Some old lock systems, you could just put it around it and pop it, you know, pop the lock out. Now at that point, they can put it right underneath in certain vehicles. I've seen the Toyotas, for whatever reason they figured out Toyotas. Just kind of like a thin piece of metal that goes right underneath and opens. And we have an auto theft unit, and they're the ones that exclusively work with the auto thefts, but again, what happens is a lot of times we're seeing vehicles getting broken into, and people don't, they say, well, I locked my door, there's no forced entry. If you look underneath that lock, if they didn't damage it, 90% of the time they're going to damage your lock anyway, so.
Sometimes they have electronic gadgets to just scan the code.
Which is new. We haven't seen a huge uprise here yet in Travis County, but all over the country, those are huge, so that is happening. Yes, sir.
I've been here since 1961, had a vehicle stolen March 21st. There were 9 detectives for 17 counties. None of those guys will go around. He wrecked the truck in Tennessee. Travis County won't extradite. They don't have the money.
I know the case.
Aside from that story, what do you know about, what do people know about side of the spot crime? This is a spinoff from Travis County. That's another way to alert people what's going on in their community.
And the auto theft part, I really cannot comment on the multi-county. Yeah. I understand, and surely you're not the first to complain about it. You know, but unfortunately, I didn't know.
I apologize to cut you off. We're going to go ahead and finish the meeting. And you ever stay around a couple minutes?
I do have to run.
We're going to have
Unfortunately,
to collect any additional questions. I apologize. So we're going to go ahead and just conclude with a wrap up here. The bottom line right now, you've heard a lot of great things tonight. We really appreciate all the presenters that came out. We really do need your support as a neighborhood association. If you could please fill out those forms that you received on the way in. If you can join the SRNA, please, we need your contribution. What we want to do, as I mentioned earlier, is build up a decent reserve, get a lot more folks involved so we can lower the dues, make it so everybody can join easy. Right now, we've been pinched. We've been operating on a shoestring budget. The mailer that many of y'all might have got in your mailboxes, you know, that cost just over $2,000. And that was because we shopped around like really extensively to hit all, almost 6,000 residences around here with that one pager. If we had a better source of income, we could do informative, better communication to this community. The second thing we need besides your financial support is we really need folks, and maybe the folks who are still here are good candidates and they're still here, to join our board. So you have until Friday. Please visit our website at steinerranchna.org/board, or you can find a link right on the site, and nominate yourself to be a board member. We need folks who are willing to step up and contribute to this community. We have a lot of initiatives going on here. We have a lot of opportunity to do even better, to do a lot more for this community. In particular, we'd like to do a better job of staying in touch with the community and reaching out. And I think that the only way it's going to happen is if we get even more folks involved with the board that can afford to help us out. So please consider doing that. As I mentioned earlier, the interest is high in this community in these activities we're doing, but just to show you the numbers in black and white here, it maybe depends how you count the numbers. That's how many folks contributed to the association. We've got, 12,000 people, 5,500 rooftops here. We can do better than that. We can be a lot stronger than that as a community. And so please contribute. We really need your support. Already covered that, so I will let Daniel Hodges briefly cover our finances. He's our treasurer. For those of you that are interested, I'll just let you know where we're at in the bank account.
Thanks, Brian. At church, they asked for the offering early, and this is a lesson learned. Brian really pointed out to what our challenge is. This neighborhood association, your neighborhood association has been here 2 years. In our first year, we had 186 people join, and we collected a little over $9,000. This past year, only 65 people paid. We collected $3,900. The good news is, coming into 2013, our bank account was about $8,600. The good news, how we ended up the year, is we still had a little over $8,000. We have spent very little money on marketing. Our biggest expenses have been for the general liability insurance that the association has, $650. We had to spend $1,000 to pay the IRS to just be a non-profit neighborhood organization. And the truth is, there's only 7 people who've been on this board this year. And we've got almost 12,000 people in our community. And the bottom line is, we need Steiner Ranch residents, homeowners, people who care about this community to step up, get involved. I really appreciate the people who came tonight. And gosh, this is the core people who care, because you're still here after over 2 hours on this long sermon we've had tonight. But at the end of the day, we're really reaching out to our neighbors to get you to join this association, because we need the money to keep going. And we're spending a little money. There's 7 of us who have really met with the Travis County Commissioners, the City of Austin City Council, where we have worked with TXDOT. And I'm talking dozens and dozens of hours, and we all have full-time jobs. And what we need is more help to keep our voice being heard. And you've seen what we've accomplished in the last 2 years. It's a start. And we just need every homeowner here, every business owner here to get involved. Thank you for coming tonight, and I'll say it again, we need your help.
And finally, I'd like to just recognize, probably they're not here anymore, unfortunately, but we do have former directors, wanted to give them credit, and a round of applause for all of our directors this year. Thank you very much. I think we've embedded the questions along the way, so if you still have any others, please find one of us. Again, thank you for your support. Have a good night.